Are you needy? Needy, I think, is one of the nastiest words we can use to describe someone in the dating process. So if you're sat there today and you're thinking, someone just called me needy, or I definitely am needy, or that's something that I hear all the time about myself, in this video, I am going to be giving you 3 important mindset shifts that you need to make to your dating process to escape the needy label. So I'm dating coach Hayley Quinn. I work with men and women, and I help people to empower themselves within the world of dating, which is kind of why I dislike a word like needy, because I think needy is a very judgmental thing, because really, who is to say whose emotional needs are valid and whose are not valid? So the first empowering mindset shift that I'd really like you to make is, if currently you're sitting there and you're kind of beating yourself up thinking, oh yeah, people call me needy all the time, or I act too needy in relationships, or I always put people off me, or that's why the last person went, or any of that horrible dialogue which is going to grind down your self-esteem. I really want you to stop right there. And instead, I want you to, instead of seeing your natural emotional state as needy and therefore negative and bad, instead, I want you to acknowledge that it is actually normal and healthy to have emotional needs. And what you actually need to do is you need to find someone who can match that level of connection and intimacy that you want. So good empowering change up to begin with is, instead of judging yourself for how you are and how you naturally want to behave in relationships, to begin with, I would get to the place where you're thinking, you know what, I've double checked in with myself, I've got good relationships with friends, I know I've got the ability to be a great partner to someone, and I just know that when I'm in a relationship, I really want to spend a lot of time with someone, I want to connect, I want to give, and all of those qualities are really nice and I'm actually proud of them. So start to begin with, the first empowering mindset is to actually do a bit of a reclaim on that word needy, and not see it as disempowering, but start to see it actually as one of the amazing qualities that you have. The second empowering mindset shift that you can have around being needy is actually learning to make the right decisions as to who you express that emotion and who you give all that time and energy and effort to. A lot of the time when someone who's very warm, who's very open to relationships, who wants a lot of closeness, sometimes how that can come off as neediness is when that is combined with someone who is just not interested in the same things, who can't reciprocate, and also when it happens too early in the dating process. Of course, I think most people, though not all, ultimately want to have that really close, connected relationship where you spend plenty of time together, you're really affectionate, you have loads of sex, you have a great emotional connection. Like, most people want all of that. However, if you give that to someone right from the get-go, what it can come across like is, instead of actually doing the kind of due diligence to build that relationship and work out that this other person is a suitable recipient of all that emotional energy that you can give them, instead of doing that, it's almost like you have this big ball of emotions that you're carrying around with you, and you really want that romance, you really want that connection. And so as soon as you find someone that sort of somewhat looks like they could be a good person to experience that with, you're like, ugh, there you go, have it all. And that's what creates this crunch point. It's not that wanting to have that close relationship in and of itself, there's anything wrong with it. There's also not anything wrong with who you are as a person. However, what you might need to change up, and what could be really important for you, is instead of when you meet someone, just giving them this big emotional ball and just giving them that access all areas pass, this sounds a bit sexual, access all areas pass into your life, you start to become a bit more discerning about who you're going to invite into being in your life with you in that way. How you can start to think about this is, we go back to point 1. You can acknowledge to yourself, you know what? Yeah, I'm quite an emotionally giving person. I'm very open, I'm very warm. I want to be really close to someone. That's all okay. But what I need to do is I need to, instead of doing that from day 1, before I really know a person, when in fact I'm just getting to know them and maybe they're on a bit of a pedestal for me, instead of doing it then, I'm going to save that amazing emotional connection and ability I have to be with someone. I'm going to save it until I've seen this other person stepping forwards in exactly the same way. Because of this, a good policy for you is just to slow the whole dating process down. So some good behaviors around this could be you just see someone once or twice a week, at least for the first month or two. After that as well, you also can become a bit more tough-minded in respecting your own boundaries and being mindful to look out for people who are wanting to spend the same amount of time with you, who are replying to your messages as much as you want to chat to them, and who also are being very consistent over a period of time in building that relationship with you. So when we're looking at how to get empowered instead of seeing neediness as a negative, empowering mindset number one, remember, is to accept who you are and actually see the positives in those characteristics that you have. Secondly, though, it's about slow that process down, and before you give your 100% to someone, give them 10% to start off with, and then gradually build up to expressing that side of yourself when you know that that person is on the same wavelength as you. Empowering mindset number three is also being okay to let go of relationships where the other person is clearly communicating to you that they're just not able to have the same level of relationship as you want. And that's okay. I feel like as people, we're all set with like our own individual barometers of how much intimacy and how much closeness we feel comfortable with. Some people are like, boom, I want to see someone, eventually I want to see someone every day. I'm going to wake up next to them and say goodnight to them every night and have a family, really high intimacy level. Other people are like, you know what, actually, I like my independence. And I'm not sure if I'd ever live with someone, but I'd still like to have a great relationship. Some people might be like, you know what, I just really want to focus on myself right now. I'm going to enjoy connections when I have them, but, ultimately there's a limit to what I can offer another person. None of these relationship choices are wrong or better than another one. It only gets messed up when we start to mismatch people who are on totally different ends of the spectrum in terms of what they can actually offer. Now, if you are a person who is like a high level person in terms of how much closeness that you want, remember, first of all, don't give that closeness just to anyone. We want to give that closeness to people who can match it, and also people who have really made that effort for you. And remember as well, if someone is really clearly saying to you that they're not able to give you that level of relationship that you want, then that's a really good time for you to do a bit of a timeout on that. Sometimes people will express this directly. They will just say, just so you know, I'm not really looking for a relationship right now. And instead of this being like, oh, dagger in the heart, instead of it being like that, just take people at their word. Don't try and convince someone. Don't try and persuade them. Don't think if you try harder that they'll come around. The best mindset to have around this is just to go, well, I know what kind of relationship I need and what kind of a person I am. I respect this other person's decision that they don't want the same things as me, so I'm just going to let that go. If you can get into that mindset of being able to let things go, then you're never needy in the negative sense that people use it. So remember, there's nothing wrong with having emotional needs, and someone calling you needy is actually pretty mean and may mean that they're not a great partner for you to be investing your time in anyhow. How you can protect yourself though is to recognize what kind of level of relationship you want, to take your time building that relationship, to not give someone that access all areas pass into your life right from day one. And also, if someone clearly communicates, either verbally or through their actions, that they're not able to meet you at your level of relationship, well, that is okay. We can let that go. And when you let that go and you save that emotional energy for someone who can match it, you're going to be in a much different and better space. So if you've been listening to this video and you want to learn how to feel really empowered in dating and just good about yourself and get on a good track, I put some links below. You can get some free videos. There's one for men, one for women, or join both if you fancy it. And I really hope that you've enjoyed this video.